Hey campers, this is Tricia at Club Scrap with another fun page kit tutorial featuring the Happy Camper collection. I've got my kit right here, a copy of the instructions, my favorite Fiskars 12-inch guillotine trimmer, and an accordion pocket file to help us stay organized while we get everything prepped for all of our 8 layouts. So welcome back if you've joined me in the past, and also a warm welcome to any newcomers. I hope you enjoyed this process and that soon you'll be able to do it even independently of the videos. Just make sure you tune in if you can so you can get any extra tips that I have along the way. Okay, so I'm going to take these beautiful ribbons and set them aside. Get some fun, really gorgeous textures here to explore, and 3 adorable silver charms. I'm loving these, especially this guy right here. Well, they're all pretty cute. And then we've got these 5 really sweet corduroy wrapped buttons, some photo mats. We've got some gorgeous die cuts for you this month, and these are going to really add a lot to our pages. What I like to do first is take the photo mats that were included in your kit. These are trimmed to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and get those filed into the pockets that indicate which layout they'll be used on. So if you don't have the accordion pocket file, let us know. If you're a member, we'll help you get access to the video that you need in order to make one of these for yourself. And otherwise, you can just create 4 piles, one for every double page spread we'll be making together today. So let's begin by finding the two light blue photo mats, and then we'll put them in pocket 1 and 2, and 1 dark blue mat also goes in 1 and 2. I'm just consulting my instructions. I always list the photo mats as the second ingredient for every layout. Next, 2 dark blue will go in pocket 3 and 4, and 1 green photo mat also 3 and 4. For 5 and 6, we're going to need 2 craft colored photo mats. That's a nice heavier paper, so it may seem like you have more than 2, but it's just 2. Let's go in 5 and 6. And then in 7 and 8, I believe, are the remaining 4. So there should be 1 craft. Oh, that is so heavy. 2 green, and then 1 light blue. So everything that's left over goes in pockets 7 and 8. The next thing I always prefer to do is put the papers in the order that I'll be trimming them. This helps us avoid errors like trimming 2 pieces of paper at the same time. So let's put these in order, and I'm going to go from the top down. So we'll pile these up face down on our trimmer. The first thing I want you to find is this adorable camper print with a little RV in the corner, and then 1 of the light blue planes, 1 of this heavy duty craft plane, 1 dark blue plane. I like the dustiness of this blue. It's really pretty. Then we'll trim our cut aparts. So the first sheet of cut aparts I want you to find are these narrow border strips, followed by the other cut apart with just random shapes of artwork. And then we're going to cut, actually, we're not trimming this, but we're going to be using the dark blue plane, the other one. And then there's this really adorable collage print, followed by the other RV print, 1 craft plane, 2 green planes, and then 1 light blue plane. Lastly, the final collage print. And I just piled those all face down so when I flip the stack over, I'm back up to the top of the stack. And also we will be prepping our die cuts for use as well, but that'll come a little bit later, but make sure to keep those handy. Okay, so with our trimmer, I'm going to turn to page 2 of the instructions and start right at the top here, and with this RV print. Now when you put this into the trimmer, make sure that the RV is in the upper right corner. Honestly, with this cut, as long as the print is sideways, it really doesn't matter because we're cutting it right at 6 inches. Nice and easy. So you just made 2 equally sized pieces. They're both used in layouts 3 and 4, so if you want to file that, you can. If you've made the accordion pocket file with me, you'll know that it's only 12 inches wide, and so is the paper. So I usually just put the paper into the file at an angle so that you don't want to try to jam this down into that pocket. Okay, another nice easy piece to trim. Just make sure you have 1 sheet of this light blue plane, and we'll cut that at 6 inches. Wow, creative, right? Then let's stack these 2 pieces that are the same size We'll trim them horizontally at 8 and 4. Nice and easy cuts again. Gather up all the pieces you created. Now let's take 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. They should all be the same size. And these will be filed in pocket 5 and 6. The last 2 will go in pockets 7 and 8. And next we'll take the craft plane. We'll cut this at 9.5 inches and then 6 inches. So if you're new to this trimmer, make sure that you always stabilize this on clear bar here. That keeps the paper from moving, and that's especially important when you're working with this super heavy duty cover weight. Then rotate that 6x12 you just created and trim horizontally at 8 and 4. Gather up those 3 4x6s you just made, put 2 of them in pocket 3 and 4, and the other one in pockets 7 and 8. This next strip is 3.5 inches wide. We're going to trim it horizontally at 8 1/4 and 4.5. So take the 4.5 inch piece, place that in pocket 3 and 4. And then we have 2 other pieces the same size. They're not quite square. They both go in pocket 1 and 2. Now we're going to make a series of squares and then 1 non-square piece. So we'll cut horizontally at 10, 7.5, 5, and 2.5. So if you sort it what you have here, there's going to be one piece that's narrower than all the rest. So that we'll file it right away. This narrow piece, the non-square, gets placed in pocket 3 and 4. Then take 2 squares, pocket 1 and 2. 2 other squares go in pockets 7 and 8. Moving on to step 4 of our trimming instructions with the dark blue plane. We're going to make a series of really narrow strips by making cuts at large numbers. So let's find 11 3/4. That's very, very close to 12. Okay, so 11 3/4, and then 11.5, 11 1/4, and 11. Not done yet though. We're going to slide down to 10, 8 1/4, and 5.5. We'll rotate the 5.5. Now just be really careful on this series. We're rotating, and we'll cut horizontally at 9 1/4 and 6.5. Now rotate this piece so it's vertical again, and we'll cut at 3 1/4. We're going to rotate so it's horizontal and cut at 3 1/4 to make a couple of squares. Gather up the 2 squares you just made, and those will get filed in pocket 3 and 4. Now you have this long narrow piece. This will be used in 5 and 6. Now we have 2 more rectangles. They should be the same size. Place them horizontally into the trimmer and cut into at 2 3/4. That makes 4 squares. Put all 4 of them in pockets 7 and 8. Now we have another strip. This is currently 2 3/4 inches wide. So we're going to make more squares. So we'll cut horizontally at 11, 8 1/4, 5.5, and 2 3/4. There will also be a small piece here. So let's take the 4 squares that we made. They're all going to go in pocket 1 and 2. And then this little rectangle is actually used in layouts 3 and 4. Now you have 2 strips that are not as narrow as the remaining. Both of these strips will be placed in pocket 7 and 8. And then you have 4 really, really skinny guys. So 2 of them, I almost dropped on the floor, 2 of them go in 1 and 2. And the others go in pocket 3 and 4. Next, let's go to our cut aparts. These are the border strips. We typically include a full sheet of these in every kit. And if you place it in the trimmer, so it says the more the merrier, that should be on the right because we want to remove the narrowest strip first. So let's cut that at, it's going to be 11 inches, I'm sorry, 11 inches. And then if you look carefully, both at the top and bottom edge of this print, you'll notice a tiny little gray hash mark. That also confirms you're trimming at the correct spot. Now we'll slide down to 10 inches and then just fine tune it as needed. And then 9 1/4. And 8 1/2. Keep sliding, go to 7. And 5 1/2. Couple more here. 3 1/2. And 2 3/4. Now I've allowed these pieces to pile up, and what I have found is if you can just grab them all in the order they landed and pick them up, it's easier to distribute these pieces into the pockets if you're dealing it out from your hand rather than picking up each one off the table. So when I'm filing these, I consult the diagram in the instructions right on page 1, lower left corner. There's the picture of the cut apart that we just trimmed, and then it tells you which pocket each of these, or pile or page, that these pieces will be used on. So if you get lost, this is what I'm looking at. So this first widest one, Something Wonderful, that goes in 1 and 2. And then the next 2 pieces, this strip without text and then Nature is Not a Place to Visit, It's Home, both of those go in 5 and 6. Then you have this plaid piece with a journaling prompt area, that's 3 and 4. Wanderlust, 7 and 8. These next 2 strips with the squares on them, both of those also go in 7 and 8. And then there's another really sweet plaid piece, that's 3 and 4. And the more the merrier, 1 and 2. Okay, we have another sheet of cut aparts, so let's tackle this one. And we're going to do all of the cuts in one direction, and then we'll rotate and file each section one at a time. So I'm going to put the narrowest strip once again on the right. I'm guessing the cut will be at 11, and behold, it is. All right. And then the next cut as we slide down to 9 1/4. 7 and 4. Rotate the piece horizontally, and I believe that just gets cut in half at 6 inches. Happy Camper is used in layout 7 and 8. And then this other one with the tent, this is all one piece, is 5 and 6. Pick up the next piece. Again, the narrowest journaling prompt should be on your right, and we'll cut at 10 and 8 and 6. Time for some more fun, goes in 3 and 4. And then we have these journaling prompts. So the horizontal prompt, 1 and 2. The other horizontal goes in 5 and 6. And then we have a vertical, 7 and 8. This doesn't really matter so much. We'll put this in the trimmer so the backpack is on the right. And our first cut will be at 9 3/4. Then 7 1/2. 5 1/4. And 3. All right, so the flashlight, that will go in pocket 1 and 2. Let's Sleep Under the Stars, 7 and 8. This camping chair, 1 and 2. Hot dog, 7 and 8. And the backpack, 1 and 2. All right, we have a couple more strips here. This one, we'll put it in so that Go Explore is on the right, and we'll cut at 11. And 10. 9. And 6. Make Today an Adventure, and that's 5 and 6. And this text about the flannel shirt, 1 and 2. It's really cute. And then we've got these small pieces. So we've got Gather going into 3 and 4, Roughing It, 7 and 8, Go Explore, 3 and 4. Now this last piece is designed for the words to be trimmed apart and then added to a layout if you'd like, or you can keep it as a longer strip. But I actually had so much artwork to work with that I ended up not using this piece. You can set it aside. Next we have our sheet of die cuts. Now when you have a die cut, in order to hold everything together as a sheet, there are little tick marks made in the die just to kind of keep it connected at one place. So if you like, you can just pop all these pieces out, and if you don't like those tick marks being left behind, you can use a little craft knife to separate them first. But you know, with the laid back style of this kit, it's fine. So I also have told you where each piece goes. So the Happy Camper from the top left corner here is 5 and 6. And then Get Out More is 1 and 2. Campfire Stories, 7 and 8. Hot Dog. This kit is so sweet. 1 and 2. And then 5 Billion Star Hotel. That's 3 and 4. Love that. Okay, so this is set up here to where you can use the side that says the word camping, or you can use the images going on the other side, which is what I chose to do. I mean, there's really a million ways you can put some pages together, right? So the C and the A, we'll just reference them that way, and the M, C-A-M, they all go in pocket 7 and 8. The P and the I, or the If the Shoe Fits hike, and a lantern, those both go in 3 and 4. And we have some marshmallows on the letter N, 7 and 8. And then we have the little fire. That's going to go in 3 and 4. Getting there. A lot of these smaller pieces I use, with one exception, this cute little car. That's used in 5 and 6. Then you have, in the upper right corner here, you've got some photo corners. So these are really fun to use. I'm going to remove the number from the middle. So what a clever use of surface area here. So this pair will be placed in 3 and 4. And then I'll remove the next one to the right here. Take out the 2. These will be used in 5 and 6. Everything has a home, right? And then this one, I'll remove the number 3. These are used in 1 and 2. And finally, I'll remove the 4, and these are used in 7 and 8. Now you got the 1, 2, 3, 4 left over. That's also used, all 4 numbers, in 7 and 8. And now my favorite. I just love the addition of the circles on the pages. It just kind of adds some life, some movement. And I've tried to clearly say where these pieces go, but it just might be easier for you to follow me on the video here than look at the diagram. Okay, so place Cabin Fever in pocket 3 and 4. Then you have the tiniest dots, 5 and 6. And then we have a series going into 3 and 4. That's going to be Explore. And then the medium-sized dots. And the I Love You Some More Each and Every Day. So these 3 in consecutive sizes, those all go in 3 and 4. And then the large circles get 5 and 6. Whew. Okay, I think that's everything. So again, the smaller pieces, you want to pop those out and add them to your layouts, be my guest, but I just had a lot of great artistic options, so I didn't use absolutely everything provided along with this guy. So I'll set this aside and we'll get ready to do some page assembly. Now that I have my trimmer put away and I'm looking at my instructions, page 4, layout 7 and 8, what we're going to do is start by dry fitting layout number 8. Now, if you're working at home and you want to work layout 7 and 8 at the same time, that's great. But for camera purposes, I think it's just always easier to see if I'm working one layout at a time. So again, page 4, layout 7 and 8, the page on the right. Then we'll build this and then add 7 and keep stacking our layouts until we reach layout number 1, which is going to be on the top. And by then all the pieces will be in their home, and all you need to do then is glue everything into place. So layout 7 and 8 mean that we need to gather up everything that was filed in pocket 7 and 8. And so everything we need to finish, both of these pages should be in this pocket, and it's simply a matter of sorting it all out. Now, what you can sometimes find is that it's a little difficult to see exactly what's going on with a certain page when we nest a bunch of things together. So we're going to start out with the lower left corner, a green mat, a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 photo mat, topped with a smaller 4 by 6 light blue. Then we'll have a larger light blue mat, and then we'll nest that with a smaller craft colored mat. And then I just saw one of these little corners. Let's take one of these striped pieces, and then you'll notice in the layout there's another brown strip. That's actually the twill ribbon that's included in the kit. So I'll trim a piece of that, and that will get layered and wrapped around to the back. Now the twill is kind of a firm fiber, so when you're doing that, just test it to make sure that the twill wants to wrap itself around the page so that you're not fighting the grain of the direction of the ribbon. Let's see what else happens with this layout. We've got the cut apart with the cute little happy camper. That's going to fit right there. And we should be able to find a couple of craft colored squares. So if we can put one on top of the other in this upper right corner. I just love how this all fits and comes together. It's just marvelous. And then there should be 2 smaller cut aparts that nest on top of that. So we have the hot dog and let's sleep under the stars. Now, of course, if you have a bunch of photos from something, go ahead and top these images with photos. The extra artwork is just designed to help you be able to finish layouts without a whole bunch of pictures. There's a little tent charm. You can just slap it right on there with some of our bookbinding glue from a needle tip applicator. And then we have some of the little things that we filed from our die cut sheet. So in the upper right corner, I have this light the way, and you just tuck the A right under there along with the flashlight. Such a cute addition to this page. Down here we have a hiking boot and some marshmallows. Just tuck those right in there. And finally, one little corner we still need. Now, when I attached these corners to the layout, I just put a little bit of glue on the outer edge before I stuck them down, so you can still slide your photo underneath. Or you could always just wait to attach those later. Now, there's one other little thing I've added. It's the, sorry about all the reaching here, making sense of all of this stuff. The word roughing it. So I took this piece and used a corner chomper on the 1/4 inch setting, and I just rounded the upper corners of the word on the cut apart. And what this does is mimics the rounded corners of the other pieces, and I just tucked that right underneath there. So sweet. Let's take a look at the finished page with everything all glued in place. Of course, this tent charm is nice and secure on there, not going anywhere. There's my Rough It kind of tucked behind along with the other elements from the die cut sheet. This is a really nice page with lots of room. Again, put your pictures on top of the artwork if you have, if you have enough available. Okay, so then layout 7, for that I'll begin by sliding over the next piece in my stack of paper, which is this print. We'll begin by putting some horizontal border strips across the page. So for the wider blue strip at the top, and then the narrower one underneath, and that should nest beautifully with our title strips here, the Wanderlust, and then this nesting at the bottom. Now, if we begin with the craft, that's going to be our spacing determiner. So as you start assembling the page, start with maybe this bottom piece and work your way up. And then we're going to nest these 2 pieces here. And we've got a spot for the campfire stories, and you can top the spot for the hole with one of those corduroy wrapped buttons. So darling. And then across the bottom, the final 4 squares. Just put those in a row, and we can use our numbers. Now, when I attached my numbers, they're definitely hanging over into the square, but the adhesive that I used is not. So just be aware of where you place your adhesive. When I'm adhering a row of squares like this, I always use my ruler with the 0 center and this beautiful grid. So you just place the ruler down on the bottom of the page, and I usually allow 1/4 inch on the outside edges, and then I just space them evenly and use the ruler to help me with placing them so they're nice and level. Because I do have this tendency to glue things downhill. I've shared this many times before, but it's a constant problem. So this is my constant solution. One last thing that I did is the kit includes this beautiful raffia. It's a wonderful, simple type of ribbon. And if you have the patience and the time, you can actually peel open the layers of the raffia, and once you start it, it's just easier to get it going. And if you just keep pulling apart, you'll expose the full width of the raffia, and then you can wrap around this image here, this photo mat. So here is the finished layout where I've tediously opened up the raffia, but I really like the way it looks. Again, if you don't have the time or the patience, don't worry about it. You can skip it altogether or just wrap it as it is around the nested photo mat. Now you'll notice too, on the numbers, I took this beautiful brown twill, and this is designed to carry over the ribbon style from the previous page, folded in half lengthwise and cut at an angle, and you can create these sweet little, I don't know, flags maybe, and just tape them behind the number. And I adhered these numbers just on the upper half with a foam adhesive circle. For that, I also cut that in half and just used half of it on each square. Those are your assembly tips for layouts 7 and 8. Let's move on to 5 and 6. The next piece of paper in my stack would be the base for layout 6, which is this adorable camper print. And we'll begin by finding some craft photo mats. One gets placed kind of at the bottom edge here, and another just above it. And the way they're placed is slightly overlapping the cars, all good. And then this one, I have it to the right of the road sign here. And then we can nest that with some smaller blue pieces. Okay, getting there already. Then how about this tall, skinny mat, which works really nice with this Make Today an Adventure. And then I added this little car circle with a foam adhesive circle to make it pop a little bit, and wrapped the whole works with some of this adorable blue. It's a really soft, lovely ribbon. Then we need a spot for journaling. I try to include a spot for journaling on each page, and I think I have that kind of tucked in there, if I remember correctly. We'll double check that. Actually, I have it kind of tucked behind this tree, so this is over a little bit more. Top that with one of those silver backpack charms. Just glued it on, once again with Club Scrap's bookbinding glue. And I believe that's everything for this side of the layout. So if you look at the finished one, an important detail is that I temporarily placed the photo mat over the car, marked where the car touches the mat on each side. And then with a craft knife, I cut along that spot from one mark to the other mark. And that way I could slide this underneath. And I did the same thing with the tree and the journaling prompt. So if you turn it over, you can see there's the edge of that journaling prompt, and there's the corner of my mat on the back side of the layout. It's a great way to keep some artwork in the foreground, yet in a subtle way. Of course, all of that is completely optional. If you just want to cover up the car, go right on ahead and do that. And then we'll slide this out of the way. And again, you might be working with both layouts at the same time. The next sheet we need to finish layout 5 is the craft. Okay, so let's begin with this narrow border strip. Let's anchor things on the left side. And again, when you add this, make sure you use a grid ruler to help make sure it's nice and level. I just make sure that a line on the ruler is aligned with the edge of my paper, and that way when I rest this on here, I know it's nice and level. Okay, then we're gonna make it like an L shape in a way. So I'll put this down at the bottom of my layout, this wider border strip. And then just sitting above the border strip, we'll put the cut apart. That leaves me a spot for a 3 1/4 inch square photo, and wrap the bottom part of that with some blue ribbon. And then resting right on top of the quote here, so it's on top of the border strip, we'll place our 2 light blue mats. We're going to tuck this behind. And you can just tweak this however you like. And then embellish my corners just with some of these die cut corners. That really adds a lot. and then round this out with a happy camper and a button. So here's our finished layout again with our, I just used bookbinding glue to attach it. There's the ribbon, very nice. Once again, make sure you try to keep most of this area free of adhesive so you can slide the photo underneath, which is what I did. And then I used bookbinding glue to attach these smaller circles to the upper left side. Before we get started with layout 3 and 4, we have a little bit of stenciling to do. Now this is the green 12 by 12 plane that begins as the base of our layout. And of course the stenciling is optional if you're pressed for time, but this step doesn't really take a whole lot of time. I'm working with Club Scrap's Spruce ink. It's one of our top selling colors. It's a wonderful shade of green. And I'm also using our ink brush applicator. I'm just picking up some of this ink. Now what I'm doing is placing the stencil so it's just going off the edge of the paper, and we'll have to move it down and repeat a few times. So all I'm after is just kind of getting this top area of the page stenciled. So what I like to do when I'm first starting out is land my stencil on the plastic, or land my brush on the plastic part of the surface, and then swipe into the open areas of the stencil. I just have a piece of a newsprint down on my tabletop to avoid getting ink on my work surface, so you'll want to just be aware of that. And I'm holding the stencil in place with my left hand while I work with my right hand. Now, if you are not as confident with your stencil technique, you may want to use some painter's tape or temporary masking tape to hold the stencil in place for you. I'm just kind of getting the top 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of this. Okay, so you lift it and there it is. Now what you want to do next is realign the last square with the first square. Just make sure you're level. You're just looking at the square itself, and what we're going to do is stencil now these remaining 4 columns. It doesn't have to be super dark either. Just kind of leaves a hint. Just be really careful not to go past the edge of the stencil. It's going to leave a unsightly mark. So again, if you need to cover that or mask it, you certainly can do that. And one last slide down. I'll realign these squares one more time. And behold, I have a buffalo plaid background for my paper. Isn't that fun? Okay, with that in place, I'm going to add one of the larger sections of this camper print. I guess they're both 6 by 12, but the one portion with the camper, and that's going to go flush with the bottom edge of my layout, followed by a little divider strip. That's what I use these narrow blue pieces for, is to separate the print here from my journaling prompt here. So there's my journaling opportunity. If you want, this is kind of fun, you can take the circular die cut and slide it onto. So cute, just slid it right through there. And then I have it so that the edge of this matches up kind of with the edge of the journaling opportunity. Then we've got 2 blue squares, and you can also tuck that behind. We have the word explore. You can bring that even behind the blue if you'd like. However you want to just nest and connect up with these, it's really fun. And finally, the round cabin fever. That can kind of stick on top of there. For the left edge of this border strip, I'll add my 5 billion star hotel die cut with the corduroy wrapped button. Now down on the left, we need a spot for a photo. Can't forget that. So let's take one of the green photo mats and place it right there. And as an option, you can always just trim around the corner of the car to get that back up into the foreground. Across the bottom, we can put the fireplace and the lantern. I just love all these images. Lovingly hand drawn by our Jacqueline. If the shoe fits, hike. Just 3 little things tucked underneath this horizontal photo. And for the finished page, all stenciled and glued down, you can see all those details come to life. Oh, I forgot, we've got a small little craft piece. You can even slide that underneath here. And we have the Go Explore. So how did I do the Go Explore? Take your corner chomper on the 1/4 inch setting again, and we can round the right hand corners and then tuck that behind. Ta-da! Very, very sweet. Okay, so that is layout 4. For layout 3, I added some stenciling across the bottom that mimics and reflects what was happening in the upper right corner of the previous page. So you can go ahead and follow the same exact steps for that. And then the 6x12 portion of the camper print goes across the middle along with another divider, the blue divider, and then our plaid piece. Okay, so now we have some nested mats we can have fun with. So how about 2 blue paired with some craft and another mat that's slightly smaller over here. Time for more fun there. And we have some corners. Those can be placed in the upper right of this one and the lower left here. And then I love you some more each and every day. Just tuck that down in, and it so kind of hangs out over the top of the photo. Just a really sweet thing you can do with a trimmed out circle. Now here we have 2 more pieces, the word gather and this narrow little strip. What I did was trimmed out the gather, and I just took 1/8 of an inch off of all of it and then nested it with the blue and trimmed off the end so it would fit. And same old trick with the twill where you just fold it in half lengthwise. Let's see, which way do we need to go with this? And that'll tuck behind there. And it just gives me a nice little, I don't know, eye-catching embellishment there in the upper left corner. So here's the finished page with everything glued down and the stenciling completed. So notice you only have to do like 3.5-ish areas of that buffalo plaid across the bottom. Makes a really nice extra special touch to this page. Now moving along to page 2, the base is the light blue color, and we're going to begin by placing 4 squares along the bottom edge. And once again, use your ruler to make sure you stay on track with your spacing and that you're nice and level. And how about separating that with a border strip? The more the merrier. And then a vertical blue photo mat. And we'll enhance that with the corners once again. So as before, I always just place a little bit of glue along the very outer edge so you can still slide your photo in there. And then we have room for 2 larger craft mats. These are the pieces that are not quite square, so you want to make sure you don't have them rotated incorrectly or they won't fit. So they get placed vertically on there. And then how about our little flashlight and our cute little quote. And to finish off this page, all I did was trimmed off some really narrow pieces of the blue ribbon and folded them in half to make a little loop. And also, cleverly, I've got these craft squares that nest and will also be able to hold the backpack and the chair cut apart. As always, if you've got a photo for those spots, go ahead and cover it. This is just there to help you bridge a gap between spaces and the number of photos that you happen to have. If you're short, we got you covered. Finally, for layout number 1, we just have a few pieces left here. Now, originally when I was planning this page, I cut I think it might have been like a 3-inch strip to nest behind here, but I thought, I don't want to lose all that blue paper, so I kind of faked it and I made these narrower strips. That way I could use all the paper that would have been behind this strip somewhere else. And it really looks great. I did do the tedious work of opening up some raffia to stretch across the entire page. And then after these ends were wrapped around to the back, I undid some more raffia and then tied a bow onto the stretched portion. I'll show you that on the finished page. Then 2 slightly angled photo mats to avoid tangents. Make sure that the corners don't touch any edges. So avoid stuff like this where these corners are touching, but have them overlap slightly. Put one higher than the other, and you're in the clear. And here we've got a journaling prompt on the left. And you can enhance that with the darling RV charm. So cute. And how about 2 vertical die cuts here, embellished with 2 corduroy wrapped buttons. And here's the page with that opened raffia and then the bow tied and taped to the back. It's as simple and easy as that. This summer, my husband's family came for a long weekend. They set up camp at High Cliff State Park, right across the lake from us, and we enjoyed a wonderful holiday together. And I will be using those pictures to scrapbook these photos. But even if you're not all that outdoorsy or all that campy, scrap your trip to the Hilton, perhaps. Well, regardless, I'm sure you'll find wonderful pictures to add to these beautiful layouts. Have fun with this, and I hope that Club Scrap continues to make you a happy camper. Join me for the card making tutorial as well for this collection. We're going to have a great time.